All righty. So we've done that. A couple of housekeeping things to mention. The meeting's going to be 90 minutes long. Try to keep it personal if you can. If you're willing, use videos when you're speaking so we can kind of get to know you. If you're not speaking, please mute your mic. You know, dogs barking, kids running through the room, fire trucks going by, all kinds of stuff goes on. So if you're not speaking, please mute your mic if you don't mind. This meetup is being recorded, and I will share the link to the recording to Meetup hopefully tomorrow so that you can watch it later. And I believe towards the end, Angela is going to share the link to her slide deck, and I could probably put it in the notes for the video replay too. So then we're just we go through our introductions, and Angela's going to be talking about WooCommerce and Elementor, and she's going to walk you through how you can take full advantage of the huge potential WooCommerce and Elementor working together what that can provide for our websites. And then afterwards, I'm sure you'll have questions, and then we'll wrap up. So we're really kind of putting a big focus on the Elementor and WooCommerce. So I'm going to let Angela tell about herself in time. I'm Carrie. I'm your host. I live and work in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Host the Elementor Gwinnett County Meetup. I've been a web developer for 25 years. Started using WordPress about 7 or 8 years ago, and been doing this a long time. And then when I discovered Elementor, I discovered it before I started using it. But when they came up with the theme builder, I said, that's the ticket, because I no longer really needed themes, and been loving it ever since. Brian, where's Brian? Wave your hand, Brian. Brian's the co-host. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Brian Griffin. I am the sales and marketing director for a small firm here in Atlanta, Georgia called Printco. And I've been using Elementor for about 2 years. Probably became pretty proficient in it within the last 6 months to a year. So that's when I joined Carrie as a co-host, and I'm excited to be here and to have all of you here and taking some of your time out of your busy days to join us and learn about WooCommerce. So thank you all. Thanks,
Brian. And then, of course, Angela. Raise your hand, wave your Angela, so you can see who you are. I imagine you'll tell us all about yourself in your presentation. Before we turn it over to Angela, looks like we've got about 30 some odd people in so far. I'm going to go ahead and just, if you don't mind, going to do a real quick poll about where you are on your Elementor journey, and the kind of how you self-identify. Elementor likes to know what kind of users are attending these events. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it. If you could answer the 3 questions, and then we'll get that out of the way, and we'll give it 30, 40 seconds. And the numbers are coming in. It feels like it's election night.
You need to show me how to do that for my meetup, Carrie.
Oh, okay. I can't believe there's something that I know that you don't.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too.
I haven't taken advantage of all the Zoom features. I need to get on the bandwagon with that.
Okay, let's see what we got going here. We got 32. Give it 15 more seconds to go, and we'll end it, and then I'll show you the results. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, and these are the results.
Oh, nice.
So we got
Mm-hmm.
a fair amount of experience. Kind of, I think a lot of people are sort of in the middle of their Elementor journey. And so Elementor Pro, well, probably makes sense. Majority use Elementor Pro because that gives you so much more capability. And I bet after tonight, those people who are no's will turn into yeses. And let's see, how will you identify yourself? It's a pretty good mix. Usually we have a kind of a leaning one way or the other. You know, there's a lot of, sometimes they have a lot of entrepreneurs or site owners, but let's see, I saw a comment from Gail. This is related to me as I work for an IT company and I'm keen to know. Oh, okay. So then we could probably put curious on that one too. So, all righty. So now, with that being done, close that out, and I believe, let's see, we're not ready for that. We're ready for Angela to take over, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Angela take over.
Let's see here. Put the on the presentation mode. So I imagine you all can see my screen okay.
Yes.
I
Yep.
stole this. I stole this picture. I didn't make this picture. I stole it off online. But it looks official, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, a little bit about me. I started using WordPress in 2007. I used to code sites, HTML, tables back in the day, and that was painful. And then I discovered WordPress, taking a CSS class actually, and the instructor mentioned WordPress, and I went home and did the famous 5-minute install, which took me about 2 hours because I had no idea what a database was and all of that, but it worked. And by midnight I had a WordPress installed, and I thought, this is it. This is the rest of my life, doing these WordPress sites. I mean, I really had no idea this was the journey I was going to take, but I like that I started with WordPress so early because it's growing and I've been able to grow with it. So I've been able to understand WordPress from like more underneath. We have all these fancy themes and page layout builders, and when you use those, you don't have to know WordPress. You don't have to understand how WordPress really works, but all of these page layout builders are really using the fundamentals of WordPress in order to do what they do. And so I might try to mention a little bit about that while we go along. This is my contact information. I met Carrie and Brian because we are part of this Elementor community, which has just been so much fun. I started using Elementor in December, and I was running a quote Elementor Meetup, but I wasn't really an official Elementor Meetup. I was just doing it on my own underneath another developer meetup I had. And then I found out that Elementor actually sponsored meetups. So we didn't become an official Elementor meetup until, I think our first one was in May, but I had been doing Elementor meetups since December. And I was using another page builder, Gutenberg, came along, changed things, and it was kind of in flux. Like, what tool am I going to use now? And Elementor just kind of rose to the stack. And so I've just embraced it wholly and pushed its edges as much as possible. And really have enjoyed it. And all of you are welcome to join our Boulder Meetup. We meet the first Tuesday of every month at noon Mountain Daylight Time, which is 2 p.m. your time, Eastern Time. I don't know if that's a good time of day for anyone, but you're welcome to join us. Next month, we'll be talking about pop-ups. We're calling it Pop-Up Palooza. So hopefully we'll have enough to talk about everything you want to know about pop-ups. We might mention some other plugins like Opt-in Monster or something if you want to get more robust with your pop-ups. I also have been running the Boulder WordPress meetup for a number of years, and that is also online. It's the first Monday of every month. No. Sorry, I used to have another meetup that I'm not doing now because, you know, you can only do so many meetups in your life. It's the third Monday of every month at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, which would be 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So you're welcome to join that. And we have a variety of topics. And then I'm also co-host of the Women in WordPress podcast. It's a love for both male and female listeners to listen to that podcast. We talk to women about their journey in WordPress. And we've had some amazing guests from all over the world, including Australia and Bangladesh, Mumbai, Bangalore, trying to think, just all over Europe. So highly would love to get more listeners. So that's my plug, is for all those things. Tonight, of course, we're talking about using Elementor to design your WooCommerce templates. And I was really encouraged to see that 85% of you have Elementor Pro, because you really do need Elementor Pro to use any of the WooCommerce widgets in Elementor. So it is a requirement. You could still use you could still put WooCommerce items within your Elementor templates by using some of the WooCommerce shortcodes. And those work just fine in any layout builder, the WooCommerce shortcodes. So I will be sure to put a link to those somewhere. If you're just getting started with WooCommerce, and maybe that would have been a good question to ask people, and you could put that in the chat if you want, like, where are you at with your WooCommerce journey? I would love to know. You know, maybe some things you could put in the chat is, do you have an existing WooCommerce site? Is it already using Elementor? Or do you have an existing WooCommerce site and you're ready to redesign it and you want to use Elementor for your redesign? Or are you starting from scratch? Like, that's all really good information to know. And when we have questions, feel free to let me know, raise your hand in the chat, and maybe Brian can let me know if someone has a question applicable to the section that I'm on, because there's some information I might assume that you know. One is that you've installed WooCommerce and you're kind of familiar with the WooCommerce interface. If you haven't yet installed WooCommerce, there's this great tutorial from Kinsta, and they walk you through step-by-step how to get WooCommerce installed. You'll run through a wizard that will guide you in setting up your WooCommerce. I do a lot of WooCommerce stuff. I'm not going to be addressing specific WooCommerce plugins in this presentation, but if we have time after and we get through our Elementor questions, I'd be happy to be hit up with just general WooCommerce questions. Okay, so moving on. So the first thing you're going to want to think about when you are setting up your WooCommerce site is, you know, it's kind of assumed you're using Elementor, right? But you need a theme, and the theme is going to set like the lay of the land for you. It's going to determine a lot of how your site looks out of the box. And Elementor has several recommended themes. I put a blog post to their site on themes that they recommend you use with WooCommerce. I've listed ones that I'm a little bit more familiar with in this bullet list. And really, when it comes to picking the theme that you're going to use with WooCommerce, the decision is based on how opinionated you want that theme to be. And by opinionated, I mean, how much styling and, you know, pre-set up decisions have been made by the theme relative to WooCommerce and also the general functioning of the site. Do you want that theme to be having on the site? And so for me, I build highly custom sites. I'm using designs that have been provided to me by designers in Illustrator or Sketch or some other mock-up tool, maybe Adobe XD, and I have to match a design. And I'm not going to want a theme that has much of its own design opinion, because when a theme has a lot of its own opinions, it's going to have a lot of styling, a lot of CSS that I'm going to have to override to match this design that I've been given to by a designer. So I choose Generate Press because it kind of does nothing. It's basically kind of blank and pretty unopinionated. And so I don't have to worry about overriding a lot of its styling. For some of you, you may not want to go through all that work of making all those design decisions. And so using a theme like the Jupyter theme, which I have some of my colleagues are using Jupyter theme with Elementor Pro. It's a gorgeous theme out of the box. You may not even have to create templates with Elementor for WooCommerce if you use like the Jupyter theme or the, I don't know if that's called Neve. Astra Pro too has some basic styles out of the box you might like. And in that case, you know, you're just going to use Elementor to design your static pages on your site and let this theme kind of control a lot of the WooCommerce styling. So again, it goes back to how much are you planning to do yourself and do with WooCommerce templates versus, hey, let's just use Elementor to design our pretty homepage or other interior pages and let this, you know, beautiful Jupyter theme kind of do all the product pages and the product category pages, and you're happy with that. So I'd recommend you spend some time trying out some of these. Hello, Generate Press, Ocean WP, and Astra are all free. You can just install them and see what they look like. Astra does require the Pro version to get into the Elementor stuff. Let's see. Jupyter doesn't have a free version. It's on ThemeForest. You're going to have to pay for that. But they all have demos. So you could really explore their demos and make some decisions about where do you want to go with this and what kind of development skill or CSS skill do you have, or how much time do you want to put into it, and then pick the theme that makes the most sense for just what you need to accomplish. Does that make sense to people? Okay. And then someone had a question.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so Elementor is a page builder and it's kind of acting like a theme. I think Carrie kind of mentioned that. In a way, it's taken over a lot of the functionality that themes have, in that, wow, with Elementor, we can just style our header, our footer, our single post templates, our archive templates, our static pages. We can kind of style everything with Elementor if we want, which means that the theme isn't serving a lot of purpose other than as a container, okay? So when you have a theme that you're liking a lot of its styles and you think all of its styles are amazing for all of that default kind of content, posts, categories, pages, header, footer, you like all that the theme's doing, then you might be using Elementor just to do custom page layouts, which is more inside the guts of the page. It's not the header, it's not the footer, it's just what's between the header and footer. You might use Elementor for that part. So we are kind of in this muddy area. What's a theme? What's the page builder, especially with something like Elementor that can kind of take over everything away from the theme. So that's a very valid question, and like, what the heck is going on here? Okay, I talked a lot on that slide. So one thing that is helpful to clarify when you're getting into thinking about design decisions is understanding the difference between pages, posts, and archives, because these things are treated very differently when we approach designing them using Elementor. So a page is in the pages list. It's under pages, all pages. These are static. They with Elementor, with WooCommerce, WooCommerce installs 4 pages: the shop page, my account, cart, and checkout. And there's a short code on those pages that outputs specific content. So the shop outputs just a grid of all your products. And actually that one doesn't have a short code for that. That's just more of a WordPress functionality. So the shop outputs a grid of all your products. It's in a grid because the WooCommerce or theme template decides it's in a grid. The My Account, Cart, and Checkout pages are pages that have a short code on them that populate the My Account information, the shopping cart, and the checkout fields are populated through a short code on those pages. But those are static pages. They are automatically installed when you install WooCommerce if you go through the setup wizard. If you skipped the setup wizard, there's a tool within the WooCommerce area that I've listed here that you can go through and get WooCommerce to set up those pages. So this is kind of housekeeping stuff. You can also tell WooCommerce what pages to use for these functionality, because WooCommerce needs to know when people want to see their account information, what page do they go to? When they want to go to the cart, what page do they go to? When they're checking out, there needs to be a page that is associated with that. So there's also a place in the WooCommerce settings you can specify existing pages to use for those. And then there's also a setting like which page to use for the default products page. So those are all the WooCommerce pages that get installed, just so you're clear, like where did all these pages come from? And if you've installed multiple different shopping plugins and stuff, you kind of maybe need to sort through your pages and figure out which ones to keep, which ones to get rid of. Then there's this thing we call templates. It's the auto-generated content from WordPress, and that would be any kind of post. When you have a blog post, when you have a category, how these are styled is by way of templates. And that's what we're going to spend a lot of our time on tonight, is how do we style that single product template using Elementor? How do we style the archives, the category, the shop page using Elementor? And just a note about pages versus templates. So pages are not auto-generated. They actually, they're in the pages list, and they, you can put unique layouts on there. Whereas, I think I worded that kind of not the best, but posts and products, you typically don't put unique layouts on those. Those are styled by way of a template. So if you have 20 pages on your site, you could apply 20 different custom layouts to those pages. With the templates, you typically have a single product template, but you can have more, and I'll get to that. But you have a single product template, and that's going to style all the products across your site. And you have a single archives template, and that's going to style all the product archives on your site. So this is important because there's different areas in the dashboard you go to for these things. So pages are just customized in Elementor on their physical page, whereas the templates have to be customized under Templates Theme Builder in Elementor. And that theme builder is what you're only going to see if you have Elementor Pro. So I hope that was as clear as mud. Make more sense when we get in there. So what can we do with Elementor Pro to style your site? So you may like the styling that comes with your theme. You don't have to use Elementor to do anything with WooCommerce. It's completely optional. But if you do want to, really create your own WooCommerce templates with Elementor, here's what you can do. You could create your own header in Elementor. And in your header, you're going to need to include the cart icon. You're going to need to include links to log in and log out, or a link to the My Account page, which will have the login, log out on it. You can create a single product template if you don't like how your theme is dealing with how your products look. You can create a template. You can control all of the items on the single product page. You can control where the title shows up, where the image shows up, where the short description, long description, well, maybe not the long description, but the short description. You can control the breadcrumbs and social sharing icons, and where the tabs come in, where the related products show up. You can take all of those items that are on a WooCommerce product page and tear them all apart and rearrange them in any way you'd like. And on the product archive templates, you can determine, you know, where's the archive title, where does the description show. You can place the grid. If you want, you can create a sidebar or widget area where you can add some filters to filter, so people can filter on the archive pages by the attributes of products, like show me all the green shirts, show me all products priced between this price and that price. And then the shop page, I'll be talking about how to make a highly customized landing page for your shop. So that's what you can do with Elementor. What you can't do with Elementor is you can't customize the actual content of the cart and checkout pages. So the cart and checkout pages have a lot of different things on them. And unfortunately, we can't tear those apart and rearrange them as much as we'd like to be able to tear those things apart and rearrange them and make them look differently. But what Elementor can be used for is you can kind of design around it. Like if you want a banner image on your cart or checkout page, you can also style the content with CSS. And I have a slide with some CSS you can use that will immediately restyle the cart and checkout pages content. And your theme, if you're using like the Jupyter theme or one of those fancy themes, they may have styled out that cart and checkout content really beautifully for you, so you don't need to worry about it too much. You can't control the tab content if you're familiar with WooCommerce single product tabs. It's kind of like the additional information, reviews tab. I think I'm trying to remember what other tabs by default come with WooCommerce. You can't customize those. There's other ways to do that, and I'll touch on that later. And then there's not, unless your theme provides it, you know, Elementor is not going to really provide help with styling the alerts and other kinds of content. You'll need to either use the theme options or some CSS to style those things. So when you add a product to cart, you get an alert that says view cart, and it has a button and it has like a green box around it. And that's the thing you won't necessarily be styling with Elementor. Let's see, so Tyler says the short code static pages are why I'm here. Everything looks great on my store except my cart, account, and checkout pages. Cool, Tyler. I hope I can provide some information to help you make those look cooler. And yeah, so Woo creates detailed product pages. Yeah, so thanks, Bill. Awesome. I'm gonna keep going. So I'm gonna pop out of my slides because I think slides are so boring. And let's actually go in and create some of this stuff. So what you can follow along in the slides if you have a link to the slides so that you can see more of the step-by-step instructions on how to do this. But I think if you actually see it, it'll be more enjoyable than my just talking about my slides. And so we're going to create a custom header and add a cart and my account icon. We're going to create a single product template and an archive template and a shop all template. So let me pop out of here, and I need to stop sharing that. And I'm going to open up that window in this other monitor so I can remember what I'm going to talk about. Okay. And then let me share my other screen here. Here we are. Okay. So, so here's a new WooCommerce site I've set up, and it has those default pages I talked to you about. And I have set up some of these pages with Elementor, and I'll show those to you. Let's start with creating a header. So when we're using Elementor to create a header, you need to go to Templates, Theme Builder. So you don't want to go to Templates, Save Templates, and start building a header here. This is like a big no-no. You could do that. You could apply a template to the header under conditions here, I think, but it's not going to function in the proper way as a header. So you really want to go to Templates Theme Builder to do your header. And you will see kind of all the different types of templates you can create for different types of content on your site. And one of them is header. Sometimes I just like to start in the right tab because it reminds me, oh yeah, I'm doing a header. When you're in the correct tab and you click Add New, it will automatically choose the type of template that you want to build. So in case you're kind of half awake and you're like, oh shoot, I created a footer template. I meant to create a header template. So I'm gonna call this header new. I already created one header. Now you have the option to choose one of these header templates, or you can build your own. For expediency's sake, I am going to pick one of these simple headers and insert it on my page. So now I have something going on. I have a logo that was provided for me, which is great because I didn't have time to make a logo. This has some navigation. I had already set up a menu under Appearance Menus, so that was automatically selected as the default menu in the navigation widget. I find when I'm working with Elementor, I like to make my screen really big, and hopefully it'll still be viewable to you. But this navigator is totally clutch with being able to work in Elementor. In the lower left corner of the Elementor panel is a stack of things, layers of papers. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but if you click it, you get the navigator. And the navigator is so key to helping you navigate in your more complex Elementor layouts. We can see with the navigator that we have one section and it has 3 columns. The first column is the logo, the second column is the nav menu, and the third column is this inexplicable icon, which I think is attached to a pop-up of some sort. I'm going to ignore that for now. So now it's like, okay, I'm creating a WooCommerce site. What do I need to have in my header? Well, I kind of need the cart icon. So when people add things to the cart, we know on most e-commerce sites, there's a cart. People can click on a cart. So we'll add the menu cart. Here it's nice that with Elementor Pro, it knows we have WooCommerce. There's a menu cart. Let's put it up here. So do you see it's going on in that same column as the nav menu? We want that. It looks like, it doesn't look good right now, but we'll keep it. Then the next thing we'll do is add an icon. So now we have this lovely star icon. We want that to be a people icon. Let's find a person. Something looks like the account. Not the crying, tired one. Sometimes I feel that way when I'm shopping. So let's see if there's person. No. People, no. Hard to find. Like, how would they refer to this?
Try user.
User, right, user. Okay, yeah, I like the circle user. Let's do the circle user. Okay, so we have this blue circle user. Let's make that this gray. And then let's size it a little smaller, so more proportional too. And then we're going to link this to the My Account page, which is, I often use these relative URLs. If you wanted to, you could view your site, view the My Account page, copy the URL, paste it into here. But the URL is /my-account/. So I think that works. Okay, so now this doesn't look so great, right? Because everything's kind of stacked on top of each other. First, I'm gonna get these in the right order. So we want the menu to come first, the cart, well, maybe the icon and then the cart. And this is where I really love Elementor's positioning option in the Advanced tab. If you go to Positioning, you can choose under Width Inline. Okay, and we're going to do that for each of those items. Position, width, inline, position, width, inline. Awesome. So now they're all lined up. Isn't that spiffy? That took me forever to figure that out, by the way. I mean, not tonight. I mean, like I didn't just figure this out, but I figured it out like a couple months ago. And I'm like, I was doing CSS to make that all happen before. I'm like, oh, I just didn't think Elementor was that smart. And then I'm going to set for this whole column, because do you see how these things are kind of all aligned to the left now? For the whole column, I'm going to set the horizontal alignment to end. So now they're aligned on the right. And now I can see that with my icon, you kind of needs a little bit of maybe right margin to kind of push it away from the cart. Okay, and then we'll publish this. Whenever you publish a template, Elementor needs to know where, how do you want me to use this template? Like, do you want me to use it? Are you just goofing around, or do you want it to actually be live on your site? So where do you want to use it? So I'm going to say I want to use this on my entire site. The problem is I already have a template called header being used on my entire site. So I'm going to get out of here. Go ahead and publish this, save and close without the condition. And I'm just going to open my dashboard, go to my theme builder, and I'm going to trash that other header. Okay. So now it's like I'm back to this header that I've just created. I hadn't saved any conditions. To get to the conditions for any template, click on the arrow. It's so inexplicable. I mean, it's like not intuitive that the display conditions are here. So it's good to know, hey, this is where the display conditions are. Go to display conditions. Now let's have that be on the entire site. And we can view the page. And so now we have a working cart and we have a working My Account page. Ooh, and look, I created a pop-up. I'm going to show you guys how to create this cool add to cart pop-up. So that's the basics of a header. Sometimes it's nice if you include login, log out links up there. So if they're logged in, it will say logged in, you know, or log out. So that's a possibility. I can add that to my slides later. I kind of forgot to put that in there. Sometimes the My Account is plenty though. Any questions about headers? And was that helpful for people? So Anna said, you know, if you're using one of those pre-made themes like Jupyter, will the header already be built? And I'd say yes. Like some of those themes, you may like their header options, and you may not feel the need to override their header with your own Elementor header. So, you know, especially with something like Jupyter, they're going to have like all kinds of options. Do you want your menu centered? Do you want it below? Do you want it to the right? Do you want it to the left? So, so you may not have to worry about that. So I'm going over like all the things you could do with Elementor, but you don't have to do them with Elementor. And the header is definitely 100% optional. Astra theme, if you have the Pro version, the reason you need the Pro is to get this cart icon that comes with Astra Pro to work in the Astra Pro header. Generate Press, you also need the Pro to get the cart functionality added to your header. And so yes, you can totally use the themes header, and that's fine. Can the header be set not to scroll up out of view as you scroll down? I'm not like, I think this one might stay. Yeah, Richard, I'll provide a link to how to set the scroll options for the header. And yes, you can have a sticky header. The sticky header is, it's in the positioning options for the section, or is it in the layout?
It's an advanced motion effects.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Stick to top, yeah. So it's under So I think the reason I used one of their pre-built headers and it was already set to be sticky. And you can add scrolling effects if you want it to animate in some way, but so it shows which devices it will be sticky on. Oh, someone said when I move my head away from the mic. That's true. This mic is very directional. So sorry, I'm looking at another screen to read questions. So I will, I need owl eyes, like big eyes. I can look over there. Okay, so is that all on the headers? Okay, so we'll move on to the other templates. We go to Theme Builder. This time I'm going to create a single product template. I'm going to go ahead and ditch this template so it doesn't get in our way. Okay, create your first single product template. Great, add new single product. We'll just name this single product. Create template. And what's cool is since Elementor knows we're creating a single product, it's going to give us some pre-made templates to get started with. The thing about the pre-made templates is they have a lot of typography set in them, so that's just something to be mindful of. I think there might be a way to kind of get those templates to forget their typography. I need to look that up. Does anyone have a preference of templates? We could try this elegant wedding cake template. So I'm going to insert this template. It's a good starting point. Sometimes it's helpful to have to use one of these templates just maybe when you're getting started, just to see what's possible, what options these templates are using. You could always just explore it and trash it and just start with your own template. The nice thing about the templates is they're probably already going to be pretty mobile friendly. If you are going to start from scratch with your own template, as you know, when you do Elementor layouts, you have to you know, go test all the devices and make sure that your columns are stacking the way you want them to, and your padding and everything is set. But I imagine these might have that already thought in. So the key thing to note with the Elementor templates is when you are on a single product template and you look at all your available widgets, you suddenly have all of these WooCommerce related product widgets to use. And these widgets most of them will only really work within the product loop on a product template. WooCommerce breadcrumbs does work throughout the site. But when we're talking about product price, if you just randomly put that widget on a page, it's not going to maybe know which product price to get. Unless it has a query field, I haven't actually looked at that. But anyway, so here's all the fun WooCommerce blocks you can use to lay out your custom WooCommerce single product page. And if I can make this a little bit bigger, sometimes making it bigger doesn't help. Like I kind of want the navigator to be floating. So that can sometimes get in the way. If we analyze this layout, we'll see we have two sections, a top section, a bottom section. The top section has two columns. The two columns relate to the featured image on the left and this the product in detailed or summary information on the right. We have in the second column, let's start with the first column. We have product images widget. You do have some options for styling that, but not a lot of other options. And you would see if there were additional images, thumbnail images here, you would see them below the product image. If there was like an image gallery associated with the product, that would appear below. And then we have the WooCommerce breadcrumbs, which we basically can just apply some styling options to. The title, same, it's very much like the normal Elementor title widget. Product rating, this is going to be the star ratings for the product. So if you want to show that, this will let you do that, and you can adjust the sizing and some styling with that. The short description, same thing. Product price. again, more styling options, spacing options, and the add to cart button. And then for the quantity field, this product, you know, what's really great tip when you're working with templates is you want to be demonstrating a product that has all the stuff that you want to style in it. So this particular product, the button is set to go buy externally, so it doesn't have the add to cart options. If you click on the gear icon on the lower left corner of your Elementor window and go to preview settings, we could choose a different product to preview when we're working in here. So this might be a little more interesting because now we can see how is our add to cart being styled. Is that helpful to people? That's really, yeah, it really helped me when I figured that one out. Like, oh, this is great. Now I can actually see what I need to style and not be stuck with some random thing it's decided to use as my preview. So let's toggle open our sections again. We can click on that add to cart. So now we can see, like, I kind of noticed on this template, the add to cart and the quantity field weren't quite lining up. So I might want to adjust my, like my margin on my, or my padding on my add to cart button so the quantity lines up. And then for some reason, these quantity arrows only show up when you hover over it. I guess that's not a problem, but I don't know. I don't know if there's an option to make that just show up. Yeah, so lots of styling options there. So that, any questions just about this top section? And you can do whatever you want. If you wanted to have like an image full width across the top, I can talk to you about having custom fields where you could you know, really style out these product templates in any way that you choose. This is a pretty standard layout for WooCommerce, but at least you get some control. Like some, you know, some clients are like, oh, I really want that product rating bit to be, you know, like above the title. You know, maybe they like their stars to be above, and, you know, you want to adjust this padding. And so it just gives you all of those options without having to do a ton of CSS. And when I've had to move these things around prior to Elementor, it was all by way of Elementor hooks. It was like remove action, remove this item from here, reinsert here, and using numbers to position them. So it's a pretty onerous process. And this is amazing that you can just come in here and drag and drop things around and like nobody's business. It's awesome. And scary at the same time. So let's see.
Angela, Guy has a question regarding dynamic links and product pricing.
To the product price placed on some other page so that you know, so it knows what prices to show. I don't know if I quite understand that question. Guy, can you explain it? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, you indicated that something like product price could only be added to a product page, for example. But I know that
I might be lying about that. Let me just edit this. I was kind of playing with all the widgets in here earlier, so
because I'm thinking maybe you would have a page for like, well, here's a page of all our items on sale, and so it's not a product page, but you would have.
Oh yeah, I'll get to that.
But a bunch of prices connected to their actual prices using like the dynamic links that Elementor can do.
Yes, and that would actually be like one of the product grid would do that, and you could choose like your featured items. So we'll get to that.
For sure.
Yeah, and same with the button. There's an add to cart button. You can put in a pop up and link to a specific product, and so okay. So now this bottom area, what we're seeing is related products are here. There is this little area for upsells. If this product had upsells associated with it on the edit product page, they would show up here. On the right-hand side, we just have the product tabs. And there's another intersection with a couple more columns repeating the product title and the product metadata. So as you can see, if you look at any default WooCommerce single product page, there's all these bits and pieces to it. And what Elementor has enabled you to do, because it's working with the WooCommerce hooks for all these elements, is by way of the WooCommerce hooks happening in the background is allowing you to move these things around without having to do it the hard way, like I've always done. So, so your life will be less painful than mine has been, which is awesome. And mine will be less painful going into the future, especially when a client says, oh, could you just move that over to the left or make that full width? Now you don't have to do a bunch of code to make that happen. So you should be able to find all the things you're looking for that you'd find on a single product template and mix and match them here to your heart's content. So after you've done all of your styling and moving things around and testing your mobile view, you'll publish. And I actually recommend probably you save draft frequently too. You never know when things happen. I wouldn't spend hours before you save as a draft. So then you're going to publish. And when you publish, again, you have to say, where do you want to use this? Let's go ahead and use it on all products. But just to let you know that you can have like different product templates for perhaps different categories of your site. What if you have some products in a category, they're really kind of different looking. They really have really different information, or you really want to hide, you never allow reviews on them, so you don't want the review stars on there, that kind of thing. You can create many different product templates for different types of scenarios in your site. And maybe products by a certain author. I think that's kind of interesting. Then maybe you'd have the information about that person. It might be a good way if you're creating kind of a brand site, like maybe all the Nike products look different than the Reebok. Maybe all the Nike products get the Nike swoosh at the top of the description area, that kind of thing. So now we'll save and close. And we'll view the live site. And now we have our, oh, you know, this preview, if you ever in this area where you have the question mark and you're in kind of preview mode, doesn't always show the content. So it's kind of better to actually go. Now we can see there's our template. Oh, there's my pop-up again. Yeah. So are we ready to move on to the archive? I think so. How are we doing time-wise, Carrie? Oh, you're muted. So we're about
30 minutes, about 30 minutes.
We're at 30 minutes. Okay.
30 minutes.
Yeah. So these other templates are less complicated. So I'm going to go to our theme builder and go to the products archive. And I'm going to delete my other products archive. So we're going to create a new products archive. And again, preset templates are really, really helpful for getting you started. And we'll see this is much more simple layout. We have a heading and we have this archive products widget, and that's it. So there's not a lot to do in terms of options here. You might, if you go to the available widgets, you'll see we just have 3 widgets specifically available for the archives. We have the title, we have the archive description, and we have the grid. And then the grid can be styled. So there's lots of styling options within the grid. Boop, 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 tons. So you might spend more of your time just styling out this grid than kind of configuring the page, if you will. And if you wanted to make this page, you know, nicer, perhaps you would add, you know, you could do something where you have a featured the product, maybe the category, thumbnail image is a background of this page, or you can set a background for all of your category pages. Maybe maybe you put the heading on top of the background and center that and make it white, and line that in the middle, add some padding. Oops. So now you have the start of kind of a fancier layout for this. We'll go ahead and publish this. We're going to add a condition. And again, you have 5 condition options where you could create different category pages for different categories of your site. So maybe this was just the category that you would use for your hoodies. And maybe that big image we put at the top would just be somehow like a blown up hoodie image or something like that. So so for now, we'll just do all product archives. But just so you know, like this is the possibility with Elementor, is to be able to have these different types of templates for different parts of the WooCommerce site. So there is our product grid. The columns that display here, one thing that you need to know is these are set in the customizer, and that can be a little bit confusing and tricky because that products archive widget from Elementor doesn't provide much in the way of formatting options for the archives. So you will go to Appearance Customize, and this might be somewhat theme dependent as well, but under WooCommerce product catalog, let's see, actually not there. Whoops, WooCommerce layout. WooCommerce, you determine the number of columns for those archives in this product columns area. So now if we refresh, I'm just going to go to my t-shirts category. So now it's in 3 columns instead of 4. So you do have, there are a lot of options in the customizer that you need to set for some of these templates. And the very last template that I'm going to show you is one for the Shop All page. And I'm not going to reassemble that because that was a little more time consuming. But the Shop All page, I feel like if you go with the default, you're just going to come to a page that looks like the archive page, which is just a ton of thumbnails. But maybe with your Shop All page, it would be nicer to like showcase the categories. And in this case, I have this, let me see, I'm gonna go here so we can see it full width. Okay. So I want a really slick, I made this in 10 minutes, so it's as slick as it gets in 10 minutes. But I want to be able to navigate to people to all the different parts of my shop. And so, hey, I have hoodies, I have t-shirts, I have accessories. I turn this into a menu, and these menu items link to anchor tags on the page. So if you click t-shirt, it just scrolls down and goes to the t-shirts. If we click accessories, it scrolls down and goes to the accessories, and I've put product grids in each of these areas that only brings up the products in that category. So if we open it in Elementor, I can kind of show you how I put that together. So I created a different section for each of these areas. This is just a navigation menu, a nav menu. It's the shop menu that just has, goes to pound symbol and the name of the anchor in the section. So the menu is, the ID of the menu anchor is hoodies. So this menu item, I can show you under appearance menus, goes to hoodies. So you just add a menu anchor to the top of each of those. And then I've added, instead of the products archive, the products widget. And the products widget gives you this extra ability, which is what Guy was asking about, to choose which products you want to show. And so this is where you could add a products widget to your homepage, to a post, to any other content on your site, and be able to bring up a grid of products from any category, or even manual. You can choose just the featured items, the on sale items, or custom pick which products you want to show. And so latest products will just show the most recent products in the categories that you've chosen. You can also exclude products. You can choose to order by title or date. You can choose the number of columns here, the number of rows. So you just have a ton of flexibility and options with that products widget to use throughout the site. And so I hope that kind of solves some of those problems. Another widget that's super fun to use anywhere on the site, I feel like, is the product categories widget. So perhaps instead of doing this thing, maybe my shop all page just navigates people to the categories of my shop. And so in the edit categories widget, I can, one is hide any empty categories. I can choose, you know, how many categories I want to show. So now I've got all my categories, and that's super cool too. So you can really kind of make this, I encourage you to play with your shop all page and really make it really robust, and be able to have people just navigate everywhere in the shop. Or the other option is you'd put filters, and people could use the WooCommerce filters in a widget area to be able to filter to what they need. So now I'll show you the display conditions for that is the shop page. So it will override that default products template to just show this one on the shop page. And I'm going to go back to my notes. Let's see.
We have a question from Sue asking, how did you set up the anchor links?
Oh, okay. Let me go through that, because that is it's pretty cool to be able to do that. I am on the wrong template. Okay. So the anchor link is a WooCommerce element. It's called menu anchor. You drag it into your layout and you give that what we call an ID, right? Okay, so add a menu anchor to all the parts of the page that you want to navigate to. Then go to Appearance Menus, create a menu, and you're going to do custom links. And this is the URL for your custom link is going to be, use the pound symbol and that ID exactly as you put it into the anchor link in the Elementor layout. And then, as the final step, you'll add that navigation menu. So I called it the shop menu. And then when you click on any of those, it knows to go to that anchor link. So I have that on one site that I built recently because it was a huge scrolling site. We had so much content on this page. This is doing the same thing. It's just a menu, and each of these just links down on the page to the anchor link for that part. And then we did put, this got long, but a back to top as well. So kind of like a reverse anchor link. Okay.
If I could just ask you quickly, that menu anchor, you said that when you're using WooCommerce, that's just kind of built in? That's something that pops in? As
no, menu anchor is an Elementor thing and has nothing to do with WooCommerce.
Okay.
So this was just a way of getting out of the whole product archive blog grid for your shop all page when people are just going to the shop page where they're going to get a flavor for everything that's in your shop. Like maybe you want this not just to be a product grid of your 100 products, but maybe you want to show your categories and you want to navigate people to some of the featured products. And I do have a slide where there's beautiful WooCommerce sites that you can explore and get inspired by and try to copy into your own design to see how they navigate people through those shop all pages. So I am going to, since we're kind of getting short on time, I'm going to exit this screen share, go back to my slides. Which are where? Here they are. Okay. Now I can see them. Okay. So I did put notes for all of the things that we talked about if you want to copy again. It's the header, the product template, the display conditions, product page, archives, archive template tips, where you need to go in the customizer to get to stuff. And then talking about that shop landing page and what you may or may not want to include on that. So this is where check out these incredible designs. These sites will blow your mind and give you a lot of inspiration for designing some of your pages. And then back to Guy's question, you can add WooCommerce widgets on other pages, including the product widgets. So the archive products is not going to work on a non-archive page, but the products widget will work on non-WooCommerce pages, as well as the breadcrumbs and the custom add to cart button. So here's an example of those categories. And then with a pop-up, you can create a pop-up, and in the pop-up, add the custom add to cart widget. This image of the hoodie, the title and the text is just normal Elementor content. It's just an image, a title, a text block, but the add to cart button, when you add that, you can choose which product it's associated with. And so now if people click that add to cart in your pop-up, they go immediately to add that product to the cart or to that product page. Miscellaneous styling, yes, the checkout can be really ugly. There is this person at elementorcodes.com came up with all the CSS related to the cart and checkout pages, and you can copy their CSS into the Simple CSS plugin, which I recommend if you're a non-coder, you use the Simple CSS plugin. Will let you put CSS on your site without having to deal with files. And then it restyles. So with all this checkout and cart content, you can restyle it a lot with CSS. So that gives you a lot of options, even if you can't like move all these pieces around like we can on the single product template. And then just for those of you who are developers who want to take it a step further, you can get Advanced Custom Fields Pro, and then you can start adding other custom fields to your layout. So for example, with WooCommerce, we have short description, long description, but then what if you have other types of content you want to feature with your products? So on this client site, we have benefits and a product overview. And so these are advanced custom fields brought into columns in an Elementor product page layout. And now those will show up. And then I'd recommend using that with either dynamic conditions or the dynamic plugin to, you know, figure out if you're going to hide certain things if they're empty. And then if you want to get really fancy, there are just so many cool plugins. Here's the Simple CSS plugin. Cart flows will help you customize your checkout process. There are lots and lots of other widgets provided by other people to use with WooCommerce and Elementor. I'd be cautious. I tend to just pick one widget pack on my sites. I have, I guess I have essential add-ons, but sometimes plugins can conflict with each other. They can conflict with your theme. So you just kind of want to be cautious about what you're doing there and make sure that it's all working okay. But if you do want to do things like product carousels, that kind of thing, a lot of these plugins have some great WooCommerce templates as well as other good stuff to play with. Okay, so now I can stop talking, and I think we still have a few minutes for Q&A. Yeah, Carrie?
Yes, ma'am, we sure do. Thank you, it was awesome. Anybody have any questions? I can't imagine that you don't want to take advantage of this resource and pick Angela's brain if it's still functioning after going through having to do all that.
So a couple questions have come up. Guy had mentioned Elementor Codes has lots of cool things like animated hamburger icons. I just found that site today and it's like, wow, I'm bookmarking that. Really helpful stuff. So Jetpack, is Jetpack really necessary? You know, I've had this love-hate relationship with Jetpack for a number of years. I like all the people on the team. I think it's so many good ideas in there and I do not use it. So, you know, I'd rather get the Stripe plugin. The Stripe plugin from WooCommerce, which is a paid plugin, has a lot of options. So I just use the plugins and I don't use Jetpack on any of my WooCommerce sites. And part of that is also that I have clients using other plugins and we've tried to enable Jetpack and it's crashed the site. And so I tend not to use it, even though I think for some stores, if you're just very simply getting started, because it provides the USPS rates and it provides that Stripe integration right away, it could be helpful for you if you're kind of keeping things simple. So someone's saying, what's the advantage to using simple CSS over the custom CSS in the advanced settings tab within Elementor? You kind of, Tyler, with the simple CSS, it's kind of all in one place that you can get to and you don't forget, like, where did I put that custom CSS? You don't have to dig through your layouts to figure out what. I would just get so lost if I started doing the advanced tab with all my custom CSS. So it's kind of like having that external style sheet with a child theme without having to have the external style sheet with the child theme.
You know, Angela, I wondered about which takes precedence as far as that goes, because when they came out with, you know, you can do CSS in the customizer, you can do it with simple CSS, and I've been using that for about a year and a half, and now they've got the Elementor version of the customizer in the theme styler. Do you have any idea about if I did different things in each one of those, which would take precedence in the flow of the style sheet?
It really has to do with specificity. So what Elementor does with its site settings is it prefaces like all, let's say the heading tags with dot, you know, the class of Elementor -kit some number, then H3. And so now that's gotten very specific and overrides your other H3s, and now you've got to be more specific. So I think that when you're coming to deciding how you're going to style the site, it depends again back to that decision about the theme. If you're going to let the theme do a lot of the styling, then I do like to set global colors in Elementor so that when I go to do buttons and stuff like that, my colors are just ready for me to use. But I tend to do the typography in my theme because I like control and I don't want to have to override if I'm doing some special templating thing to have to always go to my Elementor layouts to do all that styling. So I try to do a lot of that personally in the CSS, but if you are someone who's going to use Elementor for the whole shebang, do a lot of your templating and stuff like that with Elementor, using their site settings is fine, and then you would kind of ignore some of the theme styles. So you kind of have to play with it and choose which direction, and you might end up mixing it up a little bit. There, you might find, oh, the theme is really deciding the style for this, so I have to set it in the theme options. But Otherwise, you know, you're going to do it in Elementor. But if you can, try not to mix it up too much because you just have CSS clobbering, CSS clobbering, CSS. So every setup is going to be slightly different that way. Yeah, so this Sharon was saying don't put it in the advanced options in the widgets because, yeah, it just gets too buried and lost in there, and some other future developer will want to slit your throat or something. Yeah. Oh, so for things like sales tax and shipping, it's kind of expensive, but Avatax has been one. Avalara has been the one that most of my clients like the best. It's the slickest. It's the most robust. You can certainly use TaxJar. Depends on what kind of reporting needs you have, but people have really liked Avalara quite a bit. For shipping, I think you just have to pick your shipping methods. I think that going with ShipStation provides a free stamps.com subscription, and you would need to get, the crazy thing about shipping is there's all these different components to it. So you have what's going to get your rates, but then you have what you're going to use to process with. So you'll still need to get the USPS plugin, but then you can get the free ShipStation plugin and you have your ShipStation account, which gives you a free stamps.com subscription to be able to fulfill your orders through ShipStation. And ShipStation is just so nice for being able to print labels, and it communicates with Woo and marks the order as complete, and it's really nice. So I kind of would go for ShipStation and USPS, or it works with FedEx, it works with UPS. You can have all your shipping calculation plugins installed. ShipStation will get all that information and can print labels for any one of those services from its interface. Yeah, shipping gets complicated. Tax gets complicated. That's the part that we like to build pretty pages, but who wants to set up taxing tables or shipping options and shipping zones and all of that?
And paying the sales tax to 50 different states.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, exactly. That's where Avalara will take care of all of that for you. Even though it's a little pricey, it will handle it all.
Could you put a link to Avalara or some of these things that you're mentioning?
Oh, thank you.
I just want to make sure I have the.
Yeah, let me bring it up.
I get the name right.
Avalara. Also no, and so the plugin, I'm going to put both the service where you have to get started is here, and then the plugin from WooCommerce is called Avatax, and I think that's free because it's you're using it with their paid service, so they're not going to make you pay for the plugin in addition to getting the service. So okay, so that is in there. ShipStation, I'll put a link to there, and ShipStation is also a partner of stamps.com, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, okay, so there's a couple of those.
Angela, I do have a question for you. Maybe a more advanced question, but I have a customer who has a similar to the demo site you were just using. They have an apparel supplier that has an API that updates the products as well as the pricing and such. How do you integrate that with WooCommerce?
You know, it really depends on the API providers. Sometimes it's done in the WooCommerce hooks settings. Like there are, let's see, I might be able to share my screen again. In WooCommerce, in the settings in the advanced tab is a REST API. area and also a webhooks area. And so sometimes those developers kind of use one of those options to connect in, or they might have a plugin, you know, so
Okay.
a plugin that does that, or they'll do that. But usually you have to kind of get some sort of instructions from the provider.
Brian, this is Sharon. Can you hear me?
Hey, Sharon. Yes.
So it is going to depend on the person or the third party you're doing the API with, because either they're going to provide you the API,
Mm-hmm.
or they will either say that they can hook it through Zapier as well. But
Okay.
you want to use the WooCommerce REST API.
The REST
Make sure
API.
that is definitely used. And sometimes you also have to use the JSON with that for permissions, for authentication, because you can't just let an API come in without permissions.
Without permission. Okay. Yeah, the supplier does provide that API. My confusion was just how do I make it talk to WooCommerce? And
Yeah, they should know that there is a WooCommerce API page documentation out there that lists everything about how they use the API.
okay, thank
So
you.
they should know how to do that.
Okay,
Provide
thank
that for you.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it.
Sharon, Steve Pritchard, I have a question. And I listed it in the comments, but and it probably doesn't unfortunately have to do with anybody else, but I have a couple of instances where the products are one of a kind, as opposed to being a t-shirt that you can order thousands of them, have them in inventory and whatnot. And if you could address that with any suggestions that you might have.
Yeah, I work with a lot of artists. So it's the same, it's unique work of art. So you would definitely want to control the inventory, and it would be an inventory of one. And there are options in WooCommerce. Do you want to continue to show kind of out of, you know, sold items in there? So you can kind of also double, you know, use the WooCommerce catalog page as kind of a portfolio. And, you know, it's like, well, this is sold, and here's the ones that are available. And then they can kind of see your body of work, both sold and available for purchase. But you definitely need to put inventory, stock management, and it's just a checkbox on the edit product page, and just put inventory of one.
One of the issues is, however, that now these sites aren't going to be that busy, but WooCommerce only takes it out of inventory once it is sold and not in the cart.
Yep.
And so it can actually end up in two people's carts at once.
Yep. There are things, there are other functions and add-ons to allow it to be temporarily taken out of inventory when it's added to the cart, and then have a timer on it that expires like after 30 minutes if they haven't checked out. So yeah, you could do a Google search for that, or I could put some links on the discussion.
I've come across one or two of those. I haven't been overwhelmed with how well they work.
Yeah.
One other question was, do you know of a way where I could separate the sold into like you said, a portfolio, but keep them separate from the for sale items?
Yeah, so I think, you know, with that products widget, you can write custom queries for you know, any kind of query that you want to do. I'm just going to go into that widget here real quick. I can tell you. And there is a link to some Elementor documentation about how to write custom queries. But I'm kind of not, yeah, I'm not seeing that in this query options. With post queries, you can write a custom query. What I would say in that case is maybe you just, the simplest, like non-techie way to deal with it is to have a category called sold. And put all the things in the sold category and exclude the sold category from, you know, your various places you're displaying the content.
And is there an easy way to change that category when something sells?
Yeah, just on the product or product list, you can do a quick edit or just edit the product and move it, just have it go into sold.
Okay. Thank you.
So, well, you guys know where to find me now. You've got my slides and my contact information, and this recording will be up, and I'm so glad you had me, that I could come to Georgia.
Yeah,
for the
thank you
evening.
so much for sharing all you know. I'm sure it's just a portion of what you know, but I think a lot of people got a lot out of it. Of course, we'll be able to go back and meticulously look at it with the recording. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Nice to meet you. Hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Yep. And come visit us sometimes. And
Thank you very much.
Pop in. Yeah. And we're gonna meet again second Thursday of the month, I think. We'll post the information about the next meetup in a couple of weeks. We may prevail upon Angela in the near future to share some more knowledge. We'll see.
The advance.
But we'll keep you posted. And I appreciate everybody who stayed. I can think it's a testament to how good the content was. But I mean, we didn't lose not very many people until right towards the end. So thank you again, Angela. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks to both
You
of
guys
you.
have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.